Hillary? Hi, Gary.
Hey, guys.
Okay, tonight on May 11th, Wednesday, 2022, we are going to start the Board of Health, Wellfleet Board of Health meeting at 5 p.m. Virtually on Zoom based on the open meeting law that is still in effect. And we have Gary here and let's see,
Debbie's here.
Debbie. Hi, Deb. Hi, Nikki. Good. Okay, the first variance is a review of the alternative water system at 75 Cahoon Hollow Road, Wellfleet, Massachusetts, map number 16, parcel number 66. Any questions on the board's participants on this request?
No, I'm anxious to hear what Hillary has to say about
Yes,
her review.
Two.
So I've seen this for several months now, and I think it looks really interesting. We have two other systems like this installed in town, and the reason that they're before us is so that we can review this package of information, and then we would write to the plumbing board to let them know they've been before us. But it's my understanding that whomever these folks spoke with at the plumbing board wasn't sure what type of variance they needed from the plumbing code. And so I feel like the applicant has sort of gotten shuffled around, but what we generally do is hear their presentation on the materials, the testing, how they're collecting the water, how they're storing it, what it's being used for in the dwelling. And then we write the letter to the plumbing board that goes along with their application. And that has been the extent of our involvement with these systems. This property is unique also because it is connected to town water, or it has a connection to town water should anything go wrong with the system they're proposing. So with that, I think we should hear from Sibel and Bob, and they can walk us through what they're proposing, and we can either vote to recommend it to the plumbing board or not.
Okay, Hillary, hi.
Hi.
My name is Sibela Santogrul, and I'm the architect on the project. I'll just do a very quick introduction to the project that's under construction right now. And then I will pass it to Bob Bouwer, who's the engineer who designed this system, the rain water harvesting system. So just to give you a little bit of introduction to the project, this is for a family who's been living on the Cape for many, many years. They have many properties here, and they have been coming to the Cape in the summer, specifically to Wellfleet. And this is a property that they owned for quite many years going in the past. And we demolished an existing house. And what the owner wanted to do is, her name is Susan Lloyd, who just passed away recently. And her whole idea was to build a house that was good for the environment, for her children and her grandchildren to enjoy for many, many years. And this particular house is almost a net zero house. So they did everything right in terms of insulation, solar, all the windows and doors are triple glazed. And then they also wanted to address the water problems that in the future we may be facing. So that's how we got into the rainwater harvesting concept, which I believe is a great thing for the town. And as Hillary said, it's not new to the town. And we've had this in the permitting process for months. And it's been kind of confusing, but I think we're finally getting to the place where we're understanding what we need to do to build this. So with that, I will pass it on to Bob, who's our engineer who has worked on this.
Sybil, may I just ask you a question? Were you the architect on the other two existing frames, existing water systems?
No, I was not
Oh, okay.
the
Okay.
architect of those
Thank
two
you.
projects.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bob?
Deb?
Excuse me, just one question first. Hillary, do you have data on how the other projects are working?
They seem to be fine. They,
I need to apologize here. I I cannot hear anybody. I got a echo. I'm gonna disconnect and reconnect and hope that it improves things a little bit. So excuse me for just a moment.
That was my question too, Deb. How long have they had them and how come we've never heard about them?
You
I mean,
have.
they've come in
Yes.
front of us? Was I
Yes.
here?
Yes.
Was I bored?
I don't know. While we're waiting for Bob to come
I
back,
don't
I'll
remember
go
that,
and
yeah.
pull the file.
No.
Nick, you might not have been with us. Debbie definitely
Yeah, I
wasn't
remember
with
that.
us. Gary was
remember.
and Ken was, but I'll get them. Hold on and I'll.
Okay. Is this like the Audubon? Nick, somewhat
Okay,
like the,
I am back.
okay.
Okay, I hear everybody a
Yes,
lot better now. Okay,
Hey,
sorry
was-
about that.
Was there any
you
site
can ask
plan?
your question again,
Go
please.
ahead, excuse me.
Yes,
Rebecca,
Nick.
was
Yeah,
there
go
any
ahead and
site
ask your
plan
question
distributed to
again.
us in the packet? Was there any,
Nick, I have a site plan.
oh,
It's-
okay,
It's,
because I
Yeah,
didn't.
it was in the email.
It was? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And in your paper packet that was given
Yeah,
to
that's what I was
the, it was
hoping.
Not the
left for you.
site, not the
I must have
site.
missed
It's
No,
it's the system.
The system, that's what I
I'm
meant.
sorry, thank you, Janet.
It's there. It's
Just a
there.
description to look at, okay.
Yes.
No, my question, and Hillary was going to look for information about it, was how this is working at the other two locations
Okay.
and how long it's been in use.
Now,
And-
if I may add this, Bob Boulware was one of the engineers on one of the projects.
Okay.
Great.
Yes, we worked on the Cone House and it's been working for about 2 years.
Okay,
As it happens, I think they've got a issue this week with the leaking valve that we're working through, but it's an equipment problem that we're working through. And I think as we speak, it's probably solved right now. They basically have elected to abandon their well connection and just go 100% rainwater connection.
what happens in a drought when you do that?
Well, in your situation, you'd probably, I think, have the capability of having water trucked to you. But in this particular, if in the case of the Cohen, that's the plan. But in the case of the Lloyd House, we do have city water connection that we would be able to divert. And in the event of a power outage, you get a storm come through or something like that, we have the system controlled that it will then divert to city water.
Okay, but if there isn't city water, you would divert to a well? Or to trucked in water?
Tucked in.
I don't know. They basically, Sibel, you may know more about this than I do. I don't think the well is intended to be a significant player beyond maybe using it to water their garden or something like that.
That's correct, not in our project, but perhaps in the other projects where the system was placed in. I believe their main problem was that they didn't have good well water.
I was just gonna ask that. If it's potable water that they have, right?
Right. And Bob, if I could ask you, are the other system you did in the Cohen property, was that approved by the plumbers?
The plumbing board.
Yes, it was. Both systems
Okay.
were approved.
Okay.
The Cohen House was actually a gray water recirculating system, and which basically recirculates water from the showers and lavatories. It gets cleaned up through a membrane process and then was used to flush toilets. And the result being about 40% less water consumption for the house.
I
The
see.
Lloyd House is a simpler system in that it is just strictly a rainwater collection system.
I see, okay.
So
Good.
I pulled both of the files. And I should say the Cohen House came before us in 2018 with their
Okay.
proposal, and that went on to the plumbing board in October of 2018.
I seem to remember that.
Okay, and I do too, but it was a partial system. It wasn't really
Yep.
the whole system, right?
Right, correct. And
Okay.
then
Okay, yeah, I remember that now.
the Ring Road system, which I'm looking through now, they have something a little bit different. Done by the plumber, no. So this one was the current property owners, Miss Mariana Koval, proposes installation of a rainwater collection system to meet the potable water needs of the seasonal residents. The existing water supply well would remain as a backup source. The house is presently undergoing renovations. And that one was in June of 2019. And
No, I
they
think it's a terrific idea.
Yeah.
Myself.
I do too.
What we've seen in the past is that the water quality that we get through a well-designed and well-maintained rainwater collection system will typically exceed water quality of provided by utilities. Utilities tend to be bothered, at least in the Midwest, by nitrates, the
Right.
the combination chemicals that you get when you mix ammonia and chlorine that are basically carcinogenic. And I should have done this sooner, but I sent a copy of a colleague of mine's rainwater collection system water test that it was in Key Largo, Florida, similar to you. It was a coastal area. And his water test has virtually nothing in it. And pretty
Wow.
much everywhere you go around the country, you've got problems with nitrates, even sometimes in wells, it's common to have arsenic issues. So I think I can, and we have basically did a house at Purdue University for Whirlpool, which had the scrutiny of a lot of PhD student candidate engineers that were sitting there and yeah, that was an experience. But and then they had it looked over, and then on the heels of there was a guy named Mark Edwards, who was from Virginia Tech, he was the guy that blew the whistle on the Flint, Michigan thing. So all the civil engineers are kind of, and we had a fellow at Purdue University. They basically their radar is up, so they're looking for alternative water systems. So we basically had the scrutiny of a professor at Purdue University who looked it over, and again, it passed muster. We've got a friend out in Billy Niffen, who is a real leading light of rainwater catchment in Menard, Texas, who worked for Texas A&M. His house is 100% rainwater collection, for his house. So yeah, it can be proven. Technically, it's a good system. It is something that you need to have the owner maintain. Keep his roof clean, which is typically not a huge issue. We have a filter system that basically is filters the water down to 5 micron. Then it goes through ultraviolet light, which then will sanitize the water, which deactivates any cysts or cryptosporidium, things like that. Yeah, the water typically, is very good. One of the things that we're going above and beyond on this job is we have if you're familiar with plumbing systems, it's pretty common to have a hot water recirculation system to keep hot water at the remote part of of a commercial building. We're doing something similar in this building that on the cold water side, that periodically the pump will come on and it will recirculate back through the sanitizing system, so that you will continually have sanitized water in the building. And this we added this as a consequence of learning that this building isn't the facility is not used. It stands vacant for a little bit. So we learned as a spin-off of the COVID thing at Purdue University was when they evacuated the dormitories, that even with city water, your chlorine goes away and you can have water issues. So before they put the students back in, they flush all the water out of the dormitory. With that kind of thinking, that's kind of what we did in this building. Since only we automated it, we basically are circulating the cold water loop. And as a kind of a second thought, we're going to come up with a means of doing the same sort of thing on the hot water for two reasons. One, we're going to put a pump that circulates the hot water, but push a button and they'll have hot water immediately at their shower head in their bathroom, as opposed to like you normally do, you just let the water run till it gets warm. Well, this is rainwater and it's a limited resource. So to save the water, we're going to recycle it through a pump system that actually goes down
Sounds
the
good.
cold water line. And then basically it gets resanitized as part of the, so we've got the capability of maintaining sanitized water in the system. And that's something that that's a better system than you'll find any place. I've been designing.
So Bob, we're looking for a plumber's, I'm sorry, Deb, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wonder, how often do you do the sanitization, if that's the word? Is this going on constantly, or is this going on once a week? What are we talking about?
Typically, what we've learned is it takes 3 to 4 days for bacteria to grow in the system, and that's a function of temperature. So what we'd envision, and this is, again, this is a trial balloon. There's no, this hasn't been done before. But what my expectation would be that maybe once a day, it would be run for like 20 minutes, just to kind of circulate the system. And this would be adjusted as we kind of dial in the system. One of the other things that we plan to do is that when we will have a test of the water quality, probably every 2 weeks, just to make sure as we go through, as we kind of ramp up with the rain systems, getting it fully operational, then we'll basically be testing it about every 2 weeks, just so we get a trend line and a comfort level with the system's ability to maintain clean water. And after that, typically, I think it's like every 30 days would be more than adequate. Typically, it would be a function of keeping the roof clean, the gutters clean, and then that would be the chief requirement. Once it gets in the building, it goes into the cistern. And what we've learned through studies out of Australia is that the water coming out of a cistern is actually better quality of the water that went in due to the biofilm. It's a natural process that naturally occurs in nature. And the water, the biofilm can actually even absorb any heavy metals.
Wow.
It eventually then goes out the overflow or flushes and things like that. But then again, we're over being overly safe. By then we go through filtration and then the ultraviolet and then the distribution. And as I mentioned, we're recirculating the water to maintain the sanitizing in the building. And I got to say, this exceeds any other system that we've done that I know about. A little background on me: I've been with the American Society of Plumbing Engineers for about 70 years, and well, that's a lot, about 60 years actually. I went in when I was 25, and I'm 76 now. And now the ARCSA, I joined them in 2005, American Rainwater Catchment Systems Association, and they've kind of a system that's kind of grown to be an international leading light for rainwater catchment. That we have colleagues in Canada, Mexico, and Africa, and we have an alignment with the International Rain Harvesting Alliance out of Geneva, Switzerland. The benefit to this is that we're sharing all the good ideas and the experiences that we have. Yeah, it's as a result, I think we've got a good system. Yeah.
If I could just interrupt for a minute, is there any type of accreditation that you have or that you're trying to seek that would give you recognition of the Plumbers Board? I mean, is there a process for this kind of a system? You know, we are experienced with other systems for other things that go through a regular, amount of data and testing and time to get an accreditation of sorts. Is there what organization would be overseeing your scientific data, your outcome data?
No, that would be the American Rainwater Catchment Systems Association, and I'm what they call an accredited professional. That
I see.
basically I've been to training, and as also I'm a professional engineer registered in Massachusetts, with having just recently retired from my company that I started in 1983.
Okay, so we would consider we would consider this product.
Yes.
Okay. And so then the next steps that you wanted us to do, Bob, because we all seem to be very interested and excited about this, is we would call the plumbing examiners, or
We
The
would write a
plumbing
letter,
chief,
Janet. We would
the plumbing
send,
chief. Okay. The plumbing police chief. Okay. We
Yes.
get to, yes. And, one of the things I personally wanted to ask you, Bob, I was fascinated by this, and I would love to have additional information on this. And maybe at some point, when things quiet down for all of us in this world, we could have a little bit more of an in-service on this, so we could offer it more readily and more intelligently to people. Being that,
go ahead.
just being that, obviously we have enough rain here to explore it. And when we don't, we have other options for making sure we have potable water. But I think it's something that would be very interesting for a Board of Health to explore.
I
It
agree.
would be my hope and expectation that when Sibel gives me the word that it's time for a site inspection, that I'd come out to Wellfleet and would certainly welcome the chance to maybe organize a little presentation. I've given presentations on rainwater catchment to national standards and even international presentations. So I would be happy to kind of sit down and talk to y'all and tell you what I know about it. I have done this for the city of Atlanta several years ago when they had their drought. City of Minnesota, Minneapolis had their state authorities in doing a little show and tell. And most recently, they've got a rainwater catchment. It's not potable, but it's in the Minnesota baseball stadium. A good friend of mine, another colleague out of Roanoke, Virginia, he has completed a full up rainwater as the prime source for an airport in Virginia. So it's coming out of the realm of the tree hugger and the enthusiast to be mainstream. And,
Thank you.
Obviously,
Bob, may I ask
on
a
the East
question?
Coast-
Yes, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Nick.
Am I on here?
Yes. Now you're not. You're muted now, Nick. No.
We lost Nick.
No.
he'll come back.
If I may add something while Nick is connecting back, is that we were in touch with the water commissioners, Jim Hood, and he also showed a great interest in getting possibly Bob to come and do a presentation
Good.
one day as well. And
Yeah.
if I may ask a question too, as you know, Hillary, there was some confusion from the beginning, at least for me, if the town approved 2 projects already, and I realize this one is a little bit different because this the house has a connection to town water, as well as we're going to have it for the rain harvesting water. But if in the process, the plumbing inspector determines that along with Whitewater, who also has our drawings, if they were to approve it without going to the state board of plumbers, is that something that we could possibly do? And in your decision, does it make sense to integrate such language so that if we don't have to go to the state plumbing board and we could do it locally, that would be great, if possible?
So I don't weigh in on those kinds of decisions. That's a decision for the plumbing inspector and the building commissioner. The process has been to go to the plumbing board to seek their approval, but if they tell you you don't need to do that or you don't need to follow that process, then I would get that in writing from them and submit that back to us. And we would not then submit our letter to the plumbing board because an application would not be forthcoming to them. So I can't determine that because I don't know what the plumbing code says, but I would speak with them about that and get whatever their decision is in writing.
Okay,
Okay, good.
thank you.
I was
Debbie?
just going to say that if we are going to have a presentation on this, I really think we should open it up to the building inspector and to the Conservation Commission and to any other groups that want to
Right.
attend, because I think it's really a wonderful idea. And I'd like to have as much input as possible and as many people in town hearing about it who might be able to use it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
One of you had asked about a drought and what happens if there is no rain.
I did.
Yeah, what was the answer? I didn't hear the answer because I think I was fetching the files.
The answer for this particular property is that it has a connection to town water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder what
The
would
other,
happen in a situation where they did not have a connection.
they
to
bring
town
it
water?
in by truck.
They truck it in. Okay.
Yes.
And I have one other question, just because I am in close contact with a homeowner in the Old Wharf area that is really struggling to get water, so much so that he's looking at putting a well on a piece of Conservation Commission property. What is the general cost? I don't need specifics, but what is the general cost to design and install and operate a system like this? Is
Bob, there?
You're asking me that.
I'm
to
asking
design a
you
sy-
or
system,
Sibel,
well,
just so I
okay.
have a.
We have, yeah.
Do you want to chime in on that, Bob? Because I could add my experience, which this is my first project that
Yeah.
I'm working on rain harvesting. And when the Lloyd family thought that it's a great idea, we had already started construction. And in doing research, there is one particular company who's done this on the Cape and off Cape, but it was so expensive. The price was so huge that I thought, really, that seems like a lot. So then I started to look for engineers. And then once I found Bob Brouwer, which I felt so happy, so lucky that I did. And then in trying to send out the pieces, not to go to one company to do it, but to get the general contractor to send out to his local guys to see if they could put these pieces together with Bob's expertise. And it seems like it's a lot more affordable. And it's
Okay.
about like less than half the price of what they told me. So initially they told me it's gonna cost about $150,000 for this house,
my.
which was ridiculously high. So this is going to be, I don't know exactly what it's gonna end up because we didn't actually do it, but I could report back to you.
Yeah, I would like to know because I think, well, I know we're gonna see another one of these coming. I have some other folks designing a super green, zero house going in very shortly here. And they were interested in this also, and we're trying to figure their way through this process. And I think their team came from Arizona. So they're working on it too, but I think we're going to see more and more interest in this. So I think the more we can sort of help guide people along a path that's not $150,000 because it's good for the environment and it's good for the people, that would be really good.
Absolutely. I'll share it as I go through the process.
Nick,
here.
Nick,
Okay, yeah.
Nick, you're muted. You're muted. You're
That's
muted.
what. Okay,
That-
is that, how's that?
That's better.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Bob, Mr. Bulwar, a question because I was wondering if this is politically controversial in drought states out west. I thought I remember hearing in a place like Colorado, some other places, that there was concern, private citizens sort of stealing the water almost, they were calling it, with all the rivers down low, with the reservoirs low, Lake Mead is very low. Is there any controversy or pushback from this politically? This has nothing to do with art. I love the idea, and I certainly hope it goes forward. But have you felt any, is that a real thing? Any political pushback to private citizens taking the water, so to
You
speak?
ask a fascinating question that's best would be done over a couple beers.
Yeah.
It seems like it's in Colorado. Well, the story goes, if you want your kids to support you in your old age, you want to send them to law school and specialize in Western water law.
Yeah, no,
Colorado,
exactly. It's such a hot issue. It's
Yeah.
It really came up,
Yeah,
and there was something.
two unique states. Yeah, Oregon and then Colorado are very unusual, and I think Colorado just recently modified the law that I think you can collect like 150 gallons, some ridiculously low number
Right.
off your roof without problems. They're unique. Oregon's unique that at any time that water gets into any kind of a channel, and that basically could be just a little water running down across your lawn, it now belongs to everybody downstream in the aquifer. Fortunately, in most states, that's not the case. You can pretty much harvest it on your own property without problem. It's a little bit more absent those two states. It's a little bit more mainstream pretty much throughout the western states. California is kind of growing in that area. Certainly Texas, it's very mainstream in Texas. In fact, we wrote a national standard and we borrowed heavily from the Texas rainwater guidelines. The biggest stumbling block, you mentioned political, is the one true religion of water purification is chlorine, which is carcinogenic and causes a lot of problems. So we came up with a metric for water, basically say, well, you just can't have any coliform, you can't have any cysts and things like that, and put that in our national standard, and that's kind of what it's all about. Kind of a side note, my first introduction to rainwater was at a conference with ARCS out in Hawaii, and they had some people from Australia there that were coming off their millennial drought. This was around 2004, 2005 in Australia. And this one fellow said that he'd never really had mains water, which is what they call city water, until he went to college in the city. And the only time they had any problem that they can recall was that he said that the water quality improved a little bit when his dad pulled the dead possum out of the cistern. But as icky as that sounds, nobody got sick. Similarly, in California, there was a situation where they have what they call tertiary treated water, where they take water that's sewage treatment water that's what they say is almost potable, but not quite. And the intent is that you can use it for potable, for industrial process makeup, things like that. Well, somebody did in fact get their water lines crisscrossed, and they had the tertiary treated water being submitted to this residence as their potable water. That went on for 3 months. Nobody got sick. The takeaway on this is that you do get, the body gets resistant to your local bacteria. The problem is, just like when you and I go to Mexico, we're not used to that bacteria, and we'll come back with problems. So that's the background story of rainwater catchment, and actually any water system, is that the body does get used to its own the ambient bacteria in your environment.
Well, Bob, I want to thank you
Yeah,
for all
Chris.
the information. So Hillary,
you.
would you like us to make a motion to write a letter to the plumbing?
Why don't you write the motion such that if Sibel and Bob would like a letter to the plumbing board, they can reach out to me and we will get one issued.
So
Yes.
moved. So
Second.
moved.
Just because I don't want to send anything that will pique their interest if we
Yeah.
don't have to, so.
Seconded by Debbie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that good
Thank
for you?
you.
Fascinating.
That's,
Thank you
yeah,
very
that's
much.
great.
Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Ken, it's all
Thank
yours,
you.
baby.
Very exciting.
I look forward to working with you. further down the road.
No
you
one
all.
can fill your, no one can fill your shoes.
Yeah. Butter me up a little bit, right?
I will.
Sorry I was
Is
late,
Bob
but,
still here?
work called, so.
Here.
Well, if
Bob,
you ever want to have those few beers, I'd love to keep talking about this with you, so let me know.
you're a troublemaker, Nick.
I'm sorry for the digression. I'm sure you're all saying, where did he go with this? But it was just, it's been an issue. It's been on my
Well,
mind a
we'll
little.
get together and we'll chat. Yeah, it's all about politics, truth be told.
Sorry,
That's
everybody.
That's best for
Thank
We'll
you.
we'll all
Thank
take
you,
him,
appreciate
when he
it.
comes to us, we'll all take him out for a beer.
There we go. There we go.
All
Thank you.
right, so moving along, so what are we looking at now? The review of the draft Board of Health regulations, Hillary?
Yes.
Has there been any feedback or anything new on this, Hillary?
I have not gotten any feedback from anybody.
Okay. I'd like to give some feedback.
I would love that.
Okay.
I just want to pull up the draft copy so I
Yeah.
can type in your feedback as you talk to me.
Okay. As far as the language and the line by line, I think we did a good job last time. My comments are thoughts that I've had and concerns that I've had. I've had the enjoyment, because I don't have any life, to watch the Conservation Commission in action, and I'm telling you, it's been an education to me. And
Do you watch it on YouTube or you don't
Yes,
watch
I
it?
watch. Oh no, I watch it on YouTube. So
Okay.
it's better than anything that's on television. So and in doing so, and also hearing.
Then you must watch the select board meetings, Janet,
Oh, of
because,
course, I wouldn't miss that. That's better than a soap opera. Okay. Here we
oh,
So anyway,
It
what
is
I'm,
a soap opera.
I want to be careful and weigh my words too. I am feeling, as Janet Q citizen, the need for more information. I have felt that way about our wastewater and our 208 plan for a long, long, long time. And I feel that the information regarding our dilemma areas, our areas of concern that make Wellfleet need to be addressed. I feel that our realtors who are buying and selling properties need to have the information at their fingertips that what is required. So people understand it at the point of sale when they buy a property, and when and where they buy it, and how much of that land they cannot even put a different tree on, or move their swimming pool or their grill patio or whatever. But people don't seem to understand that. And I think that's because there's a lack of information on the part of the realtors, or if there isn't, there needs to be something done about that. And I also feel that our engineers are so varied as far as their expertise, their knowledge, their ability to help homeowners make a solid decision. I mean, some of them, you hear them that they're so ecologically sound and they know every regulation, every criteria, and there's others that don't. So if they don't know it, of course, the homeowner isn't going to know it. And I think that that has me very concerned, as we are looked to as the pivotal place that is going to make enhanced IAs happen in Wellfleet. I think there's a lot more work that has to be done on the select board, the town, the wastewater committee, us, everybody, to educate the people that need to be educated. So that's what I've been losing sleep over. Thank you.
Janet, could I comment on that? This is
Sure.
Debbie.
Sure.
I chaired the Conservation Commission and for several years. And in my experience, it is sometimes not a lack of education, but a desire to do what the person wants to do when the person wants to do it. And engineers and landscapers and whomever willing to do that, whether it's legal or it's illegal. It's not a lack of education on people's part. They know what they're doing is wrong, but they go ahead and do it anyway. And that has happened repeatedly.
If I could further that, very nicely said, Deborah. I think, Janet, this, with these regulations, this is sort of the first step in that process, because now we have a plan, so to speak, going forward and what we're intending to do. And now we can let these people know. And I agree with you 100% about the realtors.
And Nick, do you feel
Yes.
you can adequately quote the price to a homeowner of what an enhanced IA system
No,
is gonna?
I'm not saying that,
Full basis? Can you tell them where they can put it? Can you tell them they have enough room on this little, waterfront property that they have? That now they have to add an extra box with wood chips in it? Can you tell them that? I
Well, I'm
can't. And can you tell them they have to spend $2,000 a month on a home that they are occupied for 2 months out of the year?
Well, are you
in
suggesting
order to
that-
monitor a provisional system? Because it's not approved, it's got to be monitored, and that's going to cost that homeowner up to 2,000. We think, because we haven't even gotten any numbers that are really, really, really accurate to be able to say that. So I mean, I
Are you-
understand what you're saying, Debbie. I understand that, but I also hear some of the homeowners who aren't in that category, who are saying, of course, if I have a choice and I'm going to spend $2,000 a month on a system so that somebody else can understand that it is, I mean, that's tough to ask people to do. And
Well,
and our town has given $2,500 and we don't even know what the total cost is on many of them. We've got numbers all over the place. I just found the process fixable. I understand what your human nature, and I understand what you're saying. People are going to try to get away with whatever they want to get away with. But then there's ways you fix that. And you fix that by making sure that we cross our T's and we dot our I's. And we make sure we get to every realtor and we say, here's your sheet. And we make sure we get to every engineer and we say, okay, here's your sheet. Here's your script. This is what we're doing in Wellfleet. This is what we're doing. So before I pass a regulation, and I'm not against the regulation change, I am not against it, but I have some caveats that I think need to be done, not just by the Board of Health. I don't think the Board of Health should be the only one who's out there like this. I think we need to have some support from our town and from the wastewater committee. That's all.
Oh, I could agree with that 100%. I'm just wondering about is our part of our mission to try to figure out the economics, because I think that's another whole ballgame as far as where money's going to come from to do all these things, and that's not our business. I mean, I think we have to come up with a plan which we think is going to fix the harbor, and if it's going to take EIAs according to our clean water committee, well then, that's what we're going to try to do. The education thing is enormous, and I agree with you 100%. Realtors want to sell a house, and they're not going to put limitations on whatever these people. People don't want to hear that, especially with the changes that are taking place now. It's basically people coming in, buying small old houses and knocking them down and building new ones. And they're not being told, that well, you're just going to build on the upland. You're not going to touch the other stuff. You're buying 5 acres, but you can only put a certain size house here. And there's going to be a lot of fights. There's going to be a lot of discouraging, news that people are going to be hearing about what they can and can't do. But I think the economics is enormous. It's true, whether it's $38,000 for an EAI or whatever, but I don't think that's really, we just have to come up with the plan that we want to implement. And then we figure out how to do it. Certainly part of it's going to be realtors have to, I think we mentioned at our last meeting, we're going to get the engineers to come and let them know what our plan is going forward. And this is what we expect them to be doing. The realtors will have to do something similar. But I think, we can't take on the entire picture, I don't think. We can certainly take care of our part, which is coming up with a plan that we think is going to clean the harbor. I mean, that's our main goal, coming up with a plan that's going to clean the harbor. We're not going to sort out the economics. We have to, people are going to have to get grants. They're going to have to find money. The state, there is money around now. We just have to make sure someone knows how to get it. But I think, we can't take on all these battles. We can certainly help in straightening out the realtors and the engineers and all that. Yeah, whether we're not getting enough information. I mean, we're basically, listening to the Clean Water Commission about these systems. That is there any other information available about these EIAs? That other than what Scott tells us. Where's he getting his? What's been his formula to come up with this plan? I don't know. With basically taking it on. They've been working on this for 20 years. We're assuming that this is the plan that we have to adopt going forward. But I think we can't start taking on too many of the issues, or we won't get anything done. So I think we have to start everyone. I mean, I thought we had, well, I don't say what I thought, but as far as the regulation, I think everyone was on board that we had to at least start with the regulation. I think Gary was talking about that last time. We can't do anything unless we have something in place that gives us the authority to start this whole process. So I understand the educational aspect totally, but I think we have to start somewhere.
I want
Yeah.
that too, Nick. I mean, what I want also in my heart.
Right.
What impetus is there going to be for anybody else to change their behavior once we change ours? Where is the desire for education that was spoken about so broadly 3 months ago, 4 months ago, that has not happened? Where is all this motivation going to come from when we've done what we did and they've got it to fall back on, and now everybody just sits back and I don't know.
Well,
I just think we change our regulation and we change it with caveats.
Yeah,
We change
no,
caveats to the town and to the engineer and to the realtors. And we use it. I mean, it might be soft power, but maybe it's something that can
No,
change behavior.
I think the ultimate impetus is the fact that if we don't do it, the state's going to do it, and then we're going to be really screwed because we're going to be paying a fortune.
Right, or the court's going to do it, and the
Well, the
court's
court's going
gonna,
to. So I mean, we're getting this grace period. If we come up with a plan, well, then we can avoid all that. But I think the bottom line is we have to do this, or else someone else is going to do it to us, and then who knows what that's going to mean. And
Well,
then so
Can I speak for a
Yeah.
second here? Because I think I can maybe add some clarity, maybe just confuse things more. I don't know. The plan is going to be the plan that we've heard the Clean Water Committee talk about for a while now, and that's the enhanced IA systems pretty much all over town, except for in those areas that GHD showed us last week where we could potentially have a sewer. So there was the phase 1 and the phase 2 of the sewer plan that was presented at our last meeting. Now that is being looked at in combination with a wastewater treatment facility at the 95 Lawrence Road project, which is in the governor's budget for 2-point-some odd million that could collect and treat some wastewater from the housing complex, the municipal buildings, and potentially some of the surrounding neighborhoods. So that's the plan that's being drafted. GHD Anastasia is working on the cost of the sewer for phase 1, the sewer for phase 2, and a larger scale sewer project that uses the transfer station. So that work should be done, I think, by the end of this month. The thought is that the comprehensive plan, the targeted watershed management plan, would be finished by the end of May, early June, and get submitted to Mass DEP. And that will involve Scott finishing up his work, wrapping in this work from GHG on the financing piece. And then that gets presented to the select board. The select board then says, yes, we like this, or no, we don't like this. If they say, no, we don't like this, then it goes back to the drawing board. If they like it, then DEP gets it and they then approve it with conditions and do what they do with it. And then we have to start acting. So our regulations, I guess I should say, we have this money available now to people. And after town meeting, when the tax bills went out, I must have spoken to upwards of 300 to 400 people about these systems. We had that webinar, which I thought was really good, had a lot of information, was pretty useful. We've spoken to our engineers, and it is proving almost impossible to sell these systems to everyday folks. We have 3 systems going in the ground in the short term here. None of those 3 people wanted to take advantage of the subsidy. So it seems like when people are told that this is what they're going to do, then they do it. So we have 3 systems going in that we'll be able to monitor in the short term here. And we have partnered with Barnstable County recently. They're putting in a grant to the EPA, and DEP was instrumental in changing the wording of the grant so that Wellfleet could apply to use some funds for this responsible management entity. And if Barnstable County gets that grant, which I fully expect them to do, money would be in place in September to have them take over the operation and maintenance of these systems. So I don't know what communities other than Wellfleet are partnering with Barnstable County. My guess is Falmouth, maybe Mashpee. I don't know the specifics of the towns, but then Brian Baumgartel will hire a staff and develop the operation and maintenance and sampling. So he would run that whole component of it. And I think he said, I just want to turn to my notes because we had this call just the other day, that it would be $1.15 million over 5 years. So at the end of the 5 years, or gearing up to the 5-year mark, there would be some cost sent back to the property owners to pay for this service. But the first 3 years would be seeing if this type of model would work. So there's a desire at the EPA and the DEP to get this type of program up and running. So I think that's really promising. The other piece is that the 0 interest loans, or the very low interest loans available now to folks for failed systems, would be able to apply to that funding to install these systems, because if we have a TMDL, then their systems are failing because we're not doing anything for nitrogen removal. So all of the systems then would be eligible for this low interest loan program, which I think would be a help. And then, of course, the Board of Health always has the authority to grant a variance. So if someone comes in with an extreme hardship, we can grant a variance. So I think with those things available, I guess I feel like we've been waiting for so long. We can certainly wait until June to get the formal plan finalized before we enact a regulation, obviously. And we weren't going to require upgrades, immediately anyway. There was going to be a grace period, but I want to see us ready to go with a regulation as soon as this plan is approved, because I'm worried about our ponds. I'm worried about our harbor. And the longer we wait, and I know we've been waiting a long time is what it feels like, but I feel like we have to start to do something.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you, Hillary.
I echo what Hillary said, and I think that Janet, I understand where you're coming from, but remember that the whole due diligence part of of the part of the engineers. I mean, it's in the engineers' best interest to really know and understand what the towns require and what they need so that they don't waste their time, and their clients' money. I know that's what Billy and I do. Emily Beebe in Truro has asked us to meet with her on every alternative system that we're thinking of designing. So we do that. That's the way she likes to do it. It's not the way everybody necessarily needs to do it. But I think that, the engineers will be on board. There's no engineer that's going to purposefully not design something that they should be designing. You understand what I'm saying? There's and if there is indeed something like that is somewhat improper, that's what we're here for, and Hillary's here for, to flag those things, saying, wait a second, this plan is not exactly right. So those are my feelings about it.
Our change in regulation would be right to the enhanced IA.
Yeah.
Right, instead of the IA. Okay.
If we go straight to the IA, we're not gonna get the reductions that we need, which is the problem. So we're not gonna come close to meeting the requirements for the nitrogen removal.
Is that even beyond the watershed areas, Hillary? I mean, for just the AIs?
The
Or are they
IA
gonna be,
systems, the IA systems aren't doing enough. So we need the
no
enhanced
matter where
IA
they are? Okay,
to get it down lower.
okay.
I mean,
So,
and the alternative, obviously, to all of this is sewering the whole town. I mean,
Oh, I know, nobody wants to do that. that's-
nobody wants to do that, obviously, but
Well, the cost
I
would be
think
phenomenal.
Right.
I think there are probably a handful of people that would say, yeah, let's do that because it's the easiest option, the cleanest option. I mean, I don't,
Our town is too spread out to make sewering really
wouldn't work.
viable.
Right.
yeah.
There's so many houses on so many dirt roads
Small
off of
roads.
other dirt roads. I mean, there's houses upon houses off of dirt roads, off of dirt roads, off of dirt roads. So
I generally get stuck out on the third.
I
dirt
agree
road,
with-
so.
it's
And Janet and I
crazy.
get lost.
But you know what? If requiring homeowners in certain areas to have enhanced IA because of the numbers and the water and the testing and all that kind of stuff, then that's the way it has to be. That's the price of doing business where we are.
Yes,
And I agree with Nick that we can't get into the economic part. All we can do is try to be as reasonable
Right.
as possible and not flamboyant with crazy requests,
Yeah, I just would like to see follow through with the other things that could be done to make it easier on when the final decision is made. Let it be our decision. Let it be, it falls back on our regulation. That's fine. But there's some processes that belong to other venues within this town that I would like to see being explored also. We can't do it. It's not in our purview. So I thank all of my co-committee members. I thank you for being so honest with me. And thank you. And I'm with you. Of course I am. You know that.
We're with you
In
too.
general, yeah,
I just had some heartfelt thoughts in the, for the people that we're serving, that's I felt for some of them, but I see what Debbie's
Well-
saying, human nature is human nature. So
Plus, I
And you
think,
never-
Janet, I think,
it's the nurse in me. I'll blame it on that.
no, Janet, we still have within the regulations, we still have a lot of flexibility. I think we, as a committee, we're generally reasonable. We listen and we make our
Right,
decisions.
But what I like to see is not only flexibility, I like to see clout when we pass this regulation that says we're doing what we feel our charter tells us to do to protect Wellfleet. And we
Right.
would like to see cooperation throughout the other venues in the town that can make this process as
Work. Right.
as community focused as it needs to be, not
Right.
divide the community on pro sewer, anti sewer. It just can create havoc. I just thought if this regulation is the end all be all. We know that. We know that. This is the buck stops here, right?
That's
But
right.
is there a time, or is there a process, or is there meat here for us to say, okay, let's go, guys. You know, we've done it. Now, what are you guys gonna do? Okay, Scott, Felix, we want numbers every week. How much is it costing? How many are in the ground? What is the data showing? You know?
Yeah.
Well,
But-
didn't
but-
we
Well, I
ask-
think Hillary is pretty clear on that about wanting to
Yeah.
move forward. And I think we have to take this first step and then we'll ride with it
Yep.
and then
Right.
do all those things. Yeah.
You know, and it's not like we're doing anything cavalier here. I mean,
No.
Yes.
we're working with the wastewater committee to identify the real problem areas that we're going to focus our regulation on. We're not making a blanket regulation that every single person has to come up with IA.
Right,
You
right.
know, if a system's
Right.
functioning and it's a Title V, it's got to be let go until it doesn't work anymore, you know?
Right.
I
That kind of thing. But you know what? As we all know, these things fail in time, and everybody's going to have to replace their septic system. And when we do, we got them.
Right.
You know?
And I think one
I
thing,
agree.
Gary, taking off on what you're saying, that's really important that we can do, and that supports what Janet is talking about, is I think we can talk about and keep talking about what happens when you improve the quality of the septic systems and how much is being removed, how much nitrogen is being removed. When we get rid of cesspools, what does it do to the
Right.
overall situation in the town? When you get rid of Title V's along ponds, you know, by this date or by that date, what does it do? What are we seeing as far as results? And I think the monitoring is going to be really crucial to support what Janet's saying, because it shows that everyone should get involved because it's benefiting everyone.
Right. Well, the monitoring, Hillary, you can chime in here, but the monitoring requirements are very specific for general, provisional.
Yep.
And what's the other one? Remedial.
Remedial. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's remedial, provisional, and general. And the testing, if you look in Title V, the testing requirements are pretty strict for each one. You know, it's spelled out, boom, 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 what people have to do and how much it's got to be, what's got to be submitted when, right? Hillary, am I?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And that's why I also like this grant from Barnstable County to get up and running the RME, because I think if we have a team, one team working with the town, we're going to get better data. They're going to be operating them, maintaining them, and record keeping them. So we're not going to lose things in translation. And if they see a problem, they're going to fix it right away instead of taking the sample the same day they're out inspecting the system, and then they don't go back till the next quarter.
Right.
So we'll have a more accountable system. I guess I want us to be in line with our regulations so that all these things fall into place just at the right time. So,
Right.
so I think, you know, maybe we try to get some, I don't know if we invite installers or engineers. We had engineers at the last webinar to sort of say, here's what we're looking at. Do you want to offer comment now while it's still in draft form? I don't know.
No, I
I
don't
don't think we need to do that
Okay,
anymore.
okay.
No, I think we understand where we understand where the engineers are coming from. The engineers are going to want to do what the client is willing to do.
Yes.
You know,
Sure.
you know, I mean, and if an engineer says you're required to have this enhanced IA, and the homeowner says, I don't want to do it, well, the engineer says, well, then I can't help you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
There's the
so
clout, right?
you know, that's the way, you know, because like, you know, as engineers, we know all our plans have to go through Hillary or someone like
Yeah.
Hillary.
Yeah.
Every town has a Hillary.
But
know?
I feel like right now we're in this strange space of knowing what we want people to do, not being able to require it, and then the CONSCOM comes in and like backdoors it and holds people hostage to it, and
Right.
they're getting some in the ground. So
Right.
Right.
Well, what we need to do,
John
what we need to
Humbler's quotes, that's what does it.
Well,
the Aldo Leopold quote, Janet. I cringe every time I cringe. I'm like, oh dear, oh dear.
The thing is that if it's in if it's in our regulations that this area needs to have enhanced IA, then that's just it, no matter what
Right.
any other the board says. You know, if it comes
But we're
before us
saying
and this is what we
anybody-
say.
But we're saying anybody that has to have it, everybody has to have it. We're saying that. We're saying everybody that has a failure has to
Yeah.
have an enhanced IA.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. Okay, all right.
You know, if you're in that area where the water, you know what I mean, where we
Yeah.
need to, that
Sensitive.
we've identified,
Right,
right? That-
So
that-
let me
that-
ask you, let
Definitely,
me,
I want that. I want that. Yes.
yeah.
I want that.
I just wonder, okay, so we've had two hearings, meetings, whatever we're having, discussions, and we don't have a soul from the public here. Maybe people like you watch it after the fact, Janet. I haven't gone on
No,
to
maybe they do,
YouTube
maybe they don't.
to check the number of
Well,
views, but
other people don't have lives?
Not- It's not a lot.
No
I
offense,
don't
you
know. I
guys,
hear the
but here's the
Concom is
thing.
Popular. The Conservation Commission meetings are popular on the YouTube, from what I understand.
Right, but here's the thing. Let me just say this real quick before, I don't mean to interrupt. You guys are awesome, but nowhere near as entertaining as half of the other boards. So you
Sure.
guys are in, you get your business done, you know what you're talking about, and you go home. You don't bicker, you don't yell at each other, you don't go back and forth. So, I mean, maybe it'll be easier once it's in public. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what you mean. Like, if you guys go ahead and make these regulations, people are going to be like, well, we never knew. And maybe if you have it, and do you have to have a public hearing to change your regulations like
Yes,
most
we
other
do.
boards?
Oh, yes,
Don't
yeah,
we?
we do.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I think, and maybe
So-
that should be in person.
that would be the best. That's the last time we changed regs, Hillary, right? We had open two, I think we had two public meetings, right?
We had pay as you throw, Janet and Gary and Ken. I think you remember the beating.
Sure
we
do.
got,
We do, we do.
Lashing, the public lashing.
Yes,
So I fully expect us to get a public lashing over this, but
Right.
I don't know if we've been talking about it for so long that people are like on board or.
No, I
they-
don't think so.
well, we're
No.
gonna have our public meetings and then we'll get to explain what the science and the numbers, and this is what the wastewater committee, and these are the areas, and we explain it. I mean, you know, that's
You-
all we can do.
Do we start that process? Well, I don't think we start our process until the select board approves the targeted watershed plan and it
Yes.
goes, when it goes to DEP, I think is when we start our public process.
Great,
So, I mean,
super.
So
I think,
I bet that's not gonna be for 3 months.
well, that's what like pains me inside, but we've been waiting for, God, 333 months. So like 3 months is like, I don't know, we're close, we're really close.
We
So
just have to keep on the course here and let it take its course. Let everybody do whatever they're gonna do, and these regulations will go into effect. It'll
yeah.
happen.
So I think we stay the course, we keep
Yep.
this document active, we refine it to a place where it's ready to go to public hearing. And then
Yes.
when we hear the word from Scott that it's going to the select board, we tee it up for a public hearing at our next meeting. I think that's the logical.
I'm in
thing.
complete agreement with that. So
And all
moved.
the other applications that pain me before then, I'll hope that they go to Conscom and get strong armed into action.
There you go. That's all we
Hillary,
can do.
Hillary, my understanding is that the State of the Harbor Conference in November, Brian Baumgartner
Yes,
is
yep.
going to speak.
Yep.
So that's,
him-
that's a little something to start as far as promoting the
Yeah.
whole idea and education.
He's gonna go with Emily Michelle,
Right.
and they both put on a really great presentation together. Emily and Michelle talks about like the latest state-of-the-art technology, and then Brian rounds it up with sampling. And if we have the grant by then, he'll be able to talk about that as well. So I
Yes,
think
that'll be
that
great. I know
that's
it's 6
good.
months from now, but I think that'll be helpful too.
Yeah, no, I
But-
was happy to set that connection up with Barbara because I think that's really useful. And it's not Scott and Kurt, it's, a couple of new faces talking about
Right.
it.
And I think that it'll go easier with the general public too, if we give them a reasonable amount of lag time. If we don't, say, okay, 6 months, everybody go. You know, if we give
Yeah,
people a
well,
least
we can't have-
reasonable amount of lag time, then we can say to all the citizens, listen, we're giving you a reasonable amount of time to deal with this. We're not jumping you and hitting you over the head unexpectedly. You know, they're going to have a lag time to comply. And I think that if we can get that lag time right, I think that we're going to get more support.
And remember, it is a hard pill to swallow. It hits people in their pockets. And I think, this takes away from like larger scale municipal projects and puts it direct to the homeowner,
Homeowners.
which
yeah.
it's a different model. And, we'll see how that works, because there's also the thought that if we can buy things in bulk, like there's economies of scale also. So if we have a neighborhood that's, ready to
Right.
go, or we can begin to think like watershed wide, or, like there's,
Yes.
we can put some
Absolutely.
thought to that, because we'll have a little bit of time to think about it.
I agree.
So we're gonna table this, or we just keep on working on the regulations? So,
Yeah, I think let's just continue to look at the language,
Keep
make
looking
sure
at
it says what we want. We'll just keep refining it. I'll give it another look and pop out.
When you've
draft.
given it another look, Hillary, can you resend it?
Yep, that's what I said. I'll give it another look and send out another draft, and then we'll just have a
Perfect.
document that's ready to go.
Perfect. Thank you so
we-
much
can
for
we-
all you do. I really
Hillary, can I ask
appreciate
you a
the
question?
work.
Can we ask about some things in the regulation now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I was just curious about the inspection criteria, 603. It said any change in use of a property would trigger an
Yeah.
inspection. Is that, suppose you put your house up for rental, in summer rental, would that trigger that?
So we don't have a rental program, right? We tried to
Right.
do that a couple of years ago, and I didn't think that went so successful. And we didn't.
It wasn't too good.
No, but just when you mentioned, any changes in use of a property. I
Yeah,
was
no,
wondering
change of
if
use
that
would
referred to
not-
that.
Yeah,
okay.
no, change of use would not constitute a rental. That would be like going from a retail shop to a grocery store, or
I was just curious
Rental
about that, if that was that,
office to
if
a,
that was in there for that reason.
yeah,
Okay,
no.
okay. And Rebecca, just a couple of typos. I don't know if you want to hear about them now or some other time. I guess we can do that.
Typos are probably me if it's
Yeah,
on the
okay.
regulation.
Well, there's just three of them. Let me see. I got them written down somewhere.
In 603B, it should say pumped instead of pummed.
Right,
The
that was one of them, right.
Yeah,
And 602 is a,
Wait, hold on. I'm still looking for 603B.
okay,
the septic tank shall be
Yep.
pumped. Yeah,
Pumped.
That's 602B, no?
no,
It's
Well, the
okay.
numbering is
603B,
not
I
right.
see.
Remember, I have to go back
see
and fix numbering.
yeah, and then in section C, you need to separate in and order. It says invert in order. It's the next section. There's just a space missing.
Got it.
yeah, and the third line down, 602, Hillary. Remaining is not spelled right, and the remaining non-conforming structure.
Oh, do we have another 602?
Yeah, 602, the third line down. It
Okay,
says,
here we go. Yep,
Third word in.
Yep.
You see that one? Okay. And I guess 301, buildable upland. The second word in, the area.
is that,
It says
Is-
it says ARE, that's all. It's just a
is
very
it in
simple.
definitions?
Yes. No,
Okay.
no, it's the 301 regulation, buildable upland. It said the area, oh, yes, the definition, I guess. The area of contiguous,
Okay.
right, the area, right, okay.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, okay.
Got it.
Okay.
And
I mean, this-
I did hear from Mike Sakali at the transfer station. He wants us to look at some increases in transfer station fees, so I asked him to provide to us a list and we'll review it at an upcoming meeting, and maybe he'll come and talk to us.
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be good. That would be good.
Yeah. And I guess in addition, you should know, on the town meeting warrant, you will see two budgets. One is with the override, one is without the override. If the override doesn't pass, the transfer station can only operate 5 days a week throughout the year, and we lose Amnesty Day. So those are two of the programs that will be affected if the override does not pass.
Got it.
All righty.
So do we have any new business, Hillary?
I think that's it. We seem to have a steady number of COVID cases, but hospitalizations and deaths don't seem to be impacted. So
How are the
We had-
kids? How are the kids doing in school?
the kids are okay. I haven't heard of any more cases at the school. I think I sent you guys those emails just so you knew what was going on.
The
Thank you.
cases in Harwich are skyrocketing, especially in the high school.
Well, they're going up all over the Cape, right? So we're now into the high transmissivity, and folks should choose to wear their masks
Right.
when out in public.
Yeah, Nauset's got a big spike.
Yeah, I think it's
Well,
Vacation.
I had heard of Hillary of a spreader event in Orleans.
I haven't heard of that
Okay.
event, but I'm
Well, significant enough, 40 people got sick apparently. Well,
Oh.
whatever.
yeah,
whatever.
I think it's gonna rise for a bit and then we'll level off. So we're still
Right.
trying to push vaccinations.
Right.
The vaccine doesn't prevent you from getting the COVID, but it does prevent you from dying and
Get out
getting
of the hospital.
hospitalized.
Keep it out of the
So
hospital. Yeah.
Folks, I have to go now, unfortunately. So
That's okay.
Okay.
Bye, Gary.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
Thank you,
sign off.
Gary.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you,
I will
Gary.
see you next month. Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Um, Hillary.
And
we-
next month should be, just so you know, actually in person.
You
The
told us
Oh.
that
media
2
service
months ago.
guys. Yeah, I know. The next week, the media service guys, JP Ludwig, will be in the senior center putting all the fiber optics in. So you guys should be good to go because you're a regulatory board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll be videoed. Not that it's any different than now, but
What did I want to ask? Oh, God, I forgot now. I forgot.
Ken, I got the email from Lara that she's stepping down from the chamber. That's really unfortunate.
Oh, that's a shame. Yeah.
She's gonna be missed.
She's
She's
been
very-
really great to work with. I sent her off an
Yeah.
email telling her
I
that.
sent her an email today too. I was really sad.
But I guess she's she's worked part-time for the chamber and then part-time for Pamit, and Pamit has decided to hire her full-time, so our loss is Pamit's gain. So,
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure, for sure.
Also, do we have any more home tests that are available for citizens?
Plenty. Yes,
And then
plenty.
Board of Health?
We've been distributing them like crazy, actually. So
Okay. That's
um the
I gotta
note
come
that-
get some tomorrow. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. The note that went out to the school, so the school has the program where they pass out tests once a week, and there wasn't a lot of buy-in to that. So when I was reviewing Claudia's note that went out to the parents of all the kids talking about what was going on at the school, I asked her to put in there that we have tests available at the health department because people are maybe more inclined to come here anonymously and pick up tests outside the door than they are to like make a to-do at the school or
Cool.
sign up for a program that they think has some like ulterior effects. So we've been getting a lot of tests out the door to businesses and
Good.
families. And yes, we have plenty of tests to continue to distribute.
Okay.
Hillary, one thing I want to ask you is, has Ryan approached you? I know they're getting the task force or whatever they want to call it about for the Maurices, but I think it should be driven home that minimum, we gotta have at least 1 or 2 people from the Board of Health involved with the process. So we know what's going on, because I don't know if I feel comfortable with some of the people that may be on that. I want to know that it's gonna be done properly.
Yeah, so Ryan reached out to me early on about this. in an executive session, we talked about the acquisition and the piece of property and, you know, some of the concerns. There are some Board of Health issues on the property, obviously, regarding their septic systems. And
Hey,
taking,
can I jump in for just one quick
Yeah, of
question
course.
about that? I know how many cesspools they are. I know, when a town takes over a property, what is their leeway about doing a septic system?
they
None.
follow the same regulation as everybody else. So
That's
our
what I thought.
regulations are Board of Health regulations. They apply to every parcel in this town.
That's
Um,
what I
that-
thought. That's why I informed the persons as such, so, okay.
That being said, every person has the right to request a variance or an extension of time or, you know, a discussion or a this or that. So I think the thought is that this town meeting will be what, in September to talk about this? Rebecca, is that right?
Yes.
I think it's in September. I mean, and I did query town council already on
It's
whether,
September like 23rd. Yeah, you're right.
okay, on whether the Board of Health could discuss the matter, knowing that there are going to need to be some upgrades and this, that, and the other. And as long as we keep our initial discussion focused to just the acquisition of the property, then we're okay. So I have a decision from town council on what we can and can't talk about when that time comes.
So could we put that on an agenda? So that we can talk about that? Because I would be very interested in hearing what Ken said. I'm interested in the inspection issue. I'm interested in the not bringing it up to code issue, and I'm interested in the operation of it for 6 years with no inspection and it not being brought up to code.
So I don't think we can't talk about any of that today, obviously. And we,
No, but I'm
and-
talking about a future agenda.
yeah, so here, this is the decision from town council. If the Board of Health wants to discuss whether to support the acquisition of the campground in general, so as to offer a recommendation at town meeting, they may do so. However, the Board of Health should limit their discussion to the pros and cons of
Purchase.
acquiring the property and refrain from discussing any specific issues that the Board of Health may need to address in the future, such as issues related to sewer, septic systems.
That's what
I
she's right.
suggest that the Board of Health agenda state Maurice Campgrounds, discussion and deliberate as to Board of Health position on property acquisition. At the outset of the meeting, Hillary, you may want to remind the Board of Health of the limited scope of their discussion, and any future issues will have to be evaluated in the future when applications are filed and more information is presented to the board. So it seems like the answer, Debbie, is no. We cannot discuss any of that at this time because we're only being asked about the acquisition.
Do we approve? Right.
Yep.
Okay,
Well, we'll have a quiet summer then.
all right.
We'll wait till the fall where the shit hits the storm or hits the fan.
Well, I think in the summer, we may have our wastewater regulations. So don't worry, you'll get a lashing no matter what we do or say. So it's
Yeah.
fine.
So, is there anything else you guys want to talk about? We all good? We'll see you next month.
I'm good.
All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? And Janet, you did phenomenal. I'll try to be here on time next month.
No, it's
Thank you, Janet. Yeah, thank. I move we adjourn the meeting, Board of Health meeting,
I'll second.
or it's May
All in
11th.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Hillary, I'm coming to see you tomorrow.
Okay, good.
All right.
Come in the morning because I'll be in Provincetown at the Center for Coastal Studies from 12 to 3.
I'll be there before then.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.